All right, all right, all right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am James Oliver Jr., co-founder and CEO of Kabila, as you saw in that video, inclusive co-founder matching app and community of badass BIPOC women founders building amazing tech startups. And we do these Kabila conversations because we are consistently doing our best to empower you to be the best founder and human you can be. And today is no exception, right? All right, so I see folks getting started early here in the comments. Y'all ain't even give me a chance to be like, tell us where you coming from. Folks already know what to do. Hey, so let us know where you're coming in from. If you're listening to the sound of my voice, please share this out. I promise you, this is going to be a great conversation because it always is, right? I'm kidding, right? But no, not really. Serious. Always great conversation. So listen, today I have a wonderful guest for you. So let me read her bio really quickly and I'll pull Samantha up. So Samantha Dorisca is a Houston-based journalist and photographer whose mission is to impact communities through the gift of storytelling using the written word or visual media. She completed her BA at UT Austin and is pursuing her MA at the University of Memphis. Her work can be found on platforms such as AfroTech, Houstonian Magazine, Girls Life Magazine, and Black, BLACQUE, Black Magazine. Samantha mainly reports on tech, trends, and entrepreneurship. What up, Queen?
Hello, hello. Definitely happy to be here.
yes. Look, man, yo, I'm gonna tell you something. I do these things all the time. The freaking chat is lit already. I don't even know. Like, happy Monday from Charlotte. Like Kimberly, amazing founder. Veronica, good friend, amazing founder. Hey, Veronica, Kimberly, Arena. Look at this. Arena is a valued member of my Parentpreneur Foundation community. Got my coffee and notebook. That's what's up. What's going on? Ashley, keep them coming. Where you coming in from? We are here. We are ready. That's what I like to see.
Yeah, the
Tamara,
chat is booming.
look at this. Tamara, a good friend of mine. We work together over at Atlantic Tech Village a lot of times. Veronica, again, we ready. I mean, I can't keep up. Look at this. Tapping them for Philly. That's what's up. Working at a PR agency. Dana, look at Dana, another one of my foundation community members, my Kabila community. Houston in the building. What's up, Mercedes?
Also H Towns. That's great.
Yes, tuning in from Virginia. What's up, Sarday? That's what I'm talking about. Hey, okay, I can do this all day. This is amazing. So thanks for piping in, everybody. A couple quick things. If you have a question, drop them in the comments, but I think y'all got that part figured out already. And please share this. We're streaming on YouTube, LinkedIn, and both of our Twitter accounts here. Please share this out. Invite your friends to join this conversation because why? Every founder I know at least thinks they want to get some PR, right, Samantha? But the problem is many of them, they don't really know how to do that, the most effective way. So we brought Samantha to come talk with us about her 3 tips to pitch media to get PR for your startup. So what's going on? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to see you.
Great intro again. And yeah, definitely happy to be here and help. Um, I think this is definitely a question that I hear a lot, and I notice people can struggle with that. I would say, first to begin, a lot of stories are worth telling. We all have a story, right? I think it always comes down to how it's also being packaged. So I think the first advice that I'd have for anyone is when you're having a story, whether it's yourself or if you're a PR, you're trying to represent someone's stories, definitely find like the best draws. And that will be different for every media outlet. But definitely try to find the best draw in someone's story, something that really stands out from the crowd. Sometimes you could have, say, startups. You can have 2 people who have different startups, but the missions might be similar and the work that they're doing in the space is similar, but there's still something very unique, whether it's about their respective journeys and, a lot of different things. So try to find that unique draw that will stand out when you're writing the email in the subject line. Try to have something catchy too. I read all my emails, but not every journalist does. Some people are looking at the subject line, so I think just to increase your chances, why not just make sure everything's like clean across the board? So that would be my first tip, is finding
Okay.
the angle in your story.
I love that. So we're gonna move. We're gonna dig into some of these tips, and you've seen me talk before, Samantha, so I'm like super random. That's the ADHD thing. I just be like taking all these left and right turns, but I promise we always bring it back home. So you said something I think is really good there. But first of all, y'all, Samantha is amazing at what she does. And she recently wrote an article about Kabila on AfroTech. You go to afrotech.com and just search for, her name, Samantha Dorisca, and you'll see the article she wrote about Kabila a few weeks ago. And I was complimenting her before the show about how great of a job she did. She took an enormous amount of care to tell the story the right way. So, if you're lucky enough to connect with Samantha and for her to do a story about you and feature on AfroTech, just know that she's going to do a good job and tell the story in a way that would make you proud. So Samantha, the other thing you said I thought was interesting was about the subject line. So because we had Dominic Midori Davis on here from TechCrunch a couple of months ago, having a similar conversation, and Dom said she gets hundreds of emails every day, and she doesn't read all of them. So the fact that you actually read your emails is great. And in terms of the subject line, if you put the person's name in the email subject, you have a 22% higher open rate, I believe, according to like Campaign Monitor or somebody like that. So if you email to Samantha, you'd be like, "Hey Samantha, comma, blah, blah, blah." Here's a perfect idea. You tell me if this works for you, Samantha. "Hey Samantha, great comments on LinkedIn last week." Oh, would you open that?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Right? So we got folks coming in from Ontario, Canada, Bogota, Colombia. Hola, Ashley. ¿Cómo va todo? Look at that, me practicing with my Spanish like that. Jason in the building. All right, let's go. Morning from Vegas. Let's go, everybody. So, Samantha, so can you tell me? I always like to ask this question. Not everybody answers it, but let's see if you answer this one. Um, can you share an example of an inappropriate approach someone used when reaching out to you for media coverage?
That's a great question. I would say, trying to think. I don't really have those too often. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like I have pitches that aren't in alignment, but something like completely inappropriate. I don't know if it's because where my headspace is. I don't really even pitches that are like way out of the ballpark. I don't really like have this like different approach to them. So I don't
Right.
get inappropriate emails, but I do have pitches that aren't in alignment with the stories I would tell at the very
Okay.
most.
And that's like a basic mistake any founder would make. And clearly, you're not going to respond to the email because they haven't even taken the time to figure out what you do. And they're just basically like wasting your time in email, right?
So I will say I look at everything as a learning curve. So even if somebody sends me a pitch that's not in alignment, although yes, I do think people should do their due diligence, and that'll be one of my tips for sure. I'll still reply to any email, even if they're not in alignment, as a learning opportunity. So I'll either tell them like, "Hey, not quite our story, not a fit," or sometimes like for some people, I actually will give them an example of like, "Okay, this is what I write," or this is just to kind of for next time if they do want to pitch so they know, oh, this is how I should approach this journalist, this is how I should approach this outlet, because I'm realizing maybe people just don't know. So sometimes I'll also try to like help people out even if they're like way left field.
That's amazing. You're a better human than me.
Yeah.
All right. So your first tip is have a good subject, and you talked about um, what was the back end of that tip you mentioned? I apologize.
um have a great subject line and have a unique angle that will make your story different from the next person.
Right. That's super, super important. Okay. So what's your second tip?
Second tip is, again, be aware of the outlet that you're pitching to. Like I've gotten pitches that are like about beauty products, like advertising the product. I don't write stories on those kind of things. So certain pitches, they're just way left field. They're not, sometimes they're not even related to like tech, business, like all the things that we write about at AfroTech. So it just goes to show that I realize some people might just put certain journalists on like a PR list and they just like flag them out to all emails, which to each their own. But I really think if you really want to be intentional, definitely look at whether it's AfroTech or other outlets, pay attention to the stories that they're telling. Also, I could be wrong, but I'm assuming when you're reaching out to a specific journalist and we have like multiple people on the team, um, the person that you're reaching out to, look at the stories that they're writing, because certain journalists, even on a team, they might have different stories that they write more of than the next one. So research even the journalists that you're reaching out to tell your story, and the outlet as well. Definitely, I feel like it'll just make you better at your stories, having an idea of, okay, this is how they wrote this story on this person. This is the angle that they use for that. You can kind of start picking up even how we frame stories or our headlines. That's kind of like free game, just literally just paying attention, reading the stories, and doing your due diligence. It'll just make you more intentional about your pitches and, just increase your chances.
I love that. So have you link angle, do your homework. You're like, folks, you gotta do your homework, do your due diligence. So this is a good comment from Damon. Research the journalist you like you research a potential investor. 100%. Damon's a writer himself. So I'm totally in alignment with both of these tips that you've given so far. Folks, if you have a question, please drop them in the comments. We have another 20 minutes with Samantha, and we want to get to your questions. So I don't know if I told you this, Samantha, but so on my own without a publicist over the years. So this is my third startup that I'm working on in the last 10 years. I got a ton of national media going back from like 2013 without a publicist. And I got featured on the Today Show 3 times, Good Morning America, Money Magazine. I was on CNBC's version of Shark Tank and like a bunch more. And the one thing I just want to add for the startups listening here is like, look, PR is great, but I think you got to temper your expectations. I feel like some founders think that if they get featured, on the Today Show or wherever, oh my God, all of a sudden now their startups on the map, they're going to have like $100 million in sales. And most times it's just not how it works. So I think folks have to temper their expectations for what they would get from, a good PR here. Like, what are your thoughts about that?
Do you mind reframing the question? Are you basically asking, like, I want to make sure I'm clear before I respond.
Yeah. So I feel like startups, a lot of startup founders, they want to get PR because they think somehow it's going to put their startup on the map. It's going to create this massive amount of awareness, which is presumably going to drive a ton of traffic to their website and result in a lot of paid customers or new users for their product or service. And I think that is, that expectation is not necessarily realistic. And I just wanted to get your thoughts about that.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. Just because you get featured on a platform, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, you know what, all my products are going to sell out or sales are going to be off the roofs. I don't think that should be like the mindset. I think ultimately, of course, whatever profit you might get from the story, I don't think that should be the priority. I think the aim should really be just telling your story, increasing your visibility, gaining loyal customers as well. I mean, at every outlet you're pitching to, that's an opportunity to kind of grow the people who are supporting you, your customers. And that support, it also might not be in the form of dollars. It could be them reposting you on socials or giving you that follow. I think that exposure can take forms in so many other ways outside of money. So I think that should really be the priority, just how you're telling your story. And just getting your name out there, getting people more aware. I think that should be the focus. I think everything else you can't really dictate. So I think you should definitely level expectations and just keep your heart in the right place, which is ultimately telling the story of your company and yourself. Like that should really just be, the priority across the board.
That's such simple yet amazing advice. So right here, folks can find what you're writing about over on AfroTech, right here, afrotech.com/author/Samantha Dorisca. They can find you on Twitter at Sammy Dor Media, which she's also an avid photographer. Is that right?
Very true. Although I keep them separate, but yeah, I'm also a photographer.
Well, you have something about photography in your Twitter.
Yeah, I do. I do have that. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Sammy Photography, something like that, and Sammy Dor Media. I love it. All right, so let's see if we have a comment here. What's this? PR is 1, 2 in the larger marketing and our business plan. 100%. So that's good. 2 good tips there. Do you have a third tip for us, Sammy?
Yeah, my third tip too is I feel like I'll get a lot of so 2 things. one, sometimes also make sure like the whatever you're pitching is like newsworthy too, in a sense. There are certain pitches where it's like it's this isn't really a story to like cover. And like the second thing I want to fold into that is I notice I sometimes get a lot of pitches like event coverage, and I feel like there's like a lot of missed opportunities that I'm seeing in that area, especially. I feel like there's definitely a way to where, for example, I know a lot of journalists take offense to post event coverage. Like when there's an email, like more of a recap, a lot of journalists are like, why didn't you invite me to this event so I could be there and be present and all of those things? And I know for me, that also is something that's very important. It can actually build a story. You can connect with people in person, gather sources. I think that would be a great way. There's a lot of lost opportunity there that I see, that I feel like people can definitely be more intentional in that area beforehand, reaching out to a journalist or the outlet beforehand. Hey, we have this really cool event. This person's going to be here. This founder. We have these panelists. Is there anything that we can do in terms of coverage, and also creating opportunities to set up interviews, with talents, etc. So I would say that's another thing, is to keep that outlet in the fold before something big, even if it's not an event. If you have funding news, right? Say your funding news is going up on August 1st, right? Um, Also prioritize, like, say, even Black media outlets in that, and give them a heads up so they can prepare themselves, lock in those exclusive interviews, and versus coming to them maybe 2 weeks later after so many outlets have already covered it, and leaving them as an afterthought.
Mm.
So I would also say, like, be intentional, keep people in mind beforehand, so it can create a better story as well, like everybody wins.
So do you feel like the media outlets, you mentioned feeling like an afterthought, you think they would feel some kind of way about that? It could affect your relationship with the outlet?
So for me, no, like I said, I feel like I sound like I necessarily have that mindset, but I do understand those things are important, I think. Just to give that kind of care and consideration and thought, beforehand, I think it does matter. I think it could, and for some, I can't speak for all outlets, but sometimes being an afterthought for some places, that might actually like deteriorate them from the story as well. So I'm just more about just increasing your likelihood altogether. So keeping people in the loop beforehand, giving them time to lock in those exclusive interviews and really plan a story out, and get to those embargo dates. That's also important in my opinion.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier having a good angle for a story, which I think is really important. What do you, how can a founder best prepare? So let's say, they reach out, they're lucky enough, you're like, yo, this is dope, I want to do a story about you. What can founders do to be prepared to help you tell a better story if they're lucky enough to have you writing about them in AfroTech, for example?
That's a really great question. Obviously, like, there's basics, like your who, why, when, all of those things, right? And that doesn't always have to be this long, fleshed out pitch either. I feel like there have been pitches that have been approved that were literally just a paragraph long, but it's literally because they just hit everything that they needed to do. I think people just really need to be very intentional about what kind of story that they want to tell for themselves and what they're like representing. Maybe certain milestones or certain challenges, just really reflecting on that. I think that'll be key, and I think it'll be reflected in like how they present themselves. I can give examples of like somebody recent. I know, like, they were like 23 years old, and they left school early because they really believed in their vision so much, and they dropped out of college and then to launch their business, and they were able to like raise funding, like, just being intentional about like maybe certain like big pivots, big adjustments, or um significant milestones, all of those things. I think um, people should definitely like keep in mind, but it does require you to sit with yourself, your story, and what you feel like sticks out the most. Yeah.
I think that makes a ton of sense. I think something you said earlier, you have to connect what you just said to something you said earlier, in that it has to be relevant to you, what the publication writes about, like what's trending in the news right now. It can't just be in a vacuum, right? Because it may not be a good fit. You agree?
No, I wholeheartedly agree, for sure. It's definitely with stories. I feel like I see people have like a one size like fits all approach, and you can just tell by the pitches. And the more intentional that you can be and the more research that you can do, that's the higher likelihood.
Yeah, 100%. Oh, so before I forget, you were talking about events. I remember when we talked with Dom from TechCrunch. Dom was like, listen, invite me. If you have an event, it's going to be like food and drinks. She said, just invite me. We love to eat, we love to drink, and we just want it makes us feel like valued and it makes us feel cool. So Dom suggested if you have an event. Do you agree with that, Samantha?
I agree. I always tell people, whether it's like an event, want to grab coffee, even if it's virtual, like please connect. Like I know I've been to events where sometimes just being there, it wasn't even supposed to be a story. And sometimes it's like you can even connect with people in the space and it could maybe turn into something. Or sometimes, story aside, it's just nice to like connect with the community, see what's out there, see what's really just see what's happening. So I'm definitely an advocate for if you have something. I'm based in Houston, even if it's out of state, please let me know. I recently flew out to Times Square to support something. It did turn into a story, and I was just so happy to be there. So yeah, definitely,
Look at
keep
that.
it in mind. Yeah.
Right. And the best way to do that is just to hit you up on Twitter, right? Sammy Dora Media.
I would say the best way for me will be email for like
Oh,
coverage.
you want me to post your email up here? Do you want me to
Email
do
would
that?
be good, but
Uh, Do you want
my
me to put
Twitter works, Instagram, I'm visible everywhere, but probably email or
you,
LinkedIn.
you
LinkedIn
want
is my go-to.
you do you want me to put your email? I can flash your email up here as a banner. Would you like me to do that or no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can definitely
All
put
right. There it goes. I'm about to put it up right now. Boom.
yeah.
She just gave you her email address. So what are you going to do? If you want to talk to her, hey Samantha, loved your conversation on LinkedIn this morning with James, and then get into it while you're reaching out to her. Like that's the cheat code, right?
Yeah, it really for me it's that simple. So
Right. Okay. So I have a couple of additional points I wanted to just drop here, and I wanted to, if you had any strong opinions about any of them, I would love to for you to chime in here. So I think if you want to get PR on your founder, it's easier to start locally. You're not just going to roll up and end up on a Today Show, but here in Atlanta, if I'm reaching out to WSB TV or Atlanta Journal Constitution or Hypotamus, which by the way, I've been featured on 2 of those 3 outlets already. And I've been back in Atlanta, I don't know, like 6 or 7 months after completed Techstars. By the way, shout out to Austin. You went to UT Austin. I went to Techstars Austin. So shout out to Austin. So any thoughts about that, starting locally?
I mean, I definitely agree. I feel like definitely don't just like prioritize like publications that are like national. I think you should definitely also prioritize local outlets as well. So I'm definitely an advocate for that. I agree. Definitely think small and large across the board. Just the more opportunities to tell your
Mm-hmm.
stories, definitely take advantage of them. So yeah, reach out to people locally as well, like for opportunities. It's definitely only going to help you. So I agree.
Yeah, the local publications, they're super super hungry for local content, compelling local content. Got a better chance of getting written up there than the USA Today. So start there. So second point for me is I think the easiest way to get PR is to inject yourself into an existing conversation with a new interesting angle. Thoughts?
I think that could be true because I'm kind of thinking about myself like more recently. I've definitely been doing like a lot of like PSAs for like certain topics that I'm writing about, and I'm literally looking for people who've experienced this like in the field or maybe even like expert commentary. And I've noticed I've been gravitating towards whatever seems like, the most interesting or has the most learning curve. So, I mean, I that's definitely true.
Okay, cool. So last one, and I want to get to we have 2 questions I want to get to, is if you have compelling data driven insights, you could share them with reporters who cover your area of expertise or your startup. For example, like I could share some data if I had an infographic about what helps co-founders have the most effective connections based on our app results. Is that helpful for you, or that kind of thing, or no?
I think it is helpful because at the end of the day, even if I'm not covering something, I should still care about the data. So I sometimes I get data where it might not really be aligned with any story that I'm working on now or even in the near future, but I still try to like read it and like take it in because we should still be informed and like well-rounded and know what's happening in the world. So yeah, I mean definitely always send data. I think it's a good thing. Obviously, I don't think every journalist is like that, But I know for me speaking, I'm fine with getting, data and being more informed.
Okay, cool. So a couple quick questions here. What are some good sites to submit pitches? Like, what are your thoughts about that? Because I'm thinking more like, how can I be more strategic in targeting specific reporters who write for specific outlets versus submitting pitches to a site? Like, what are your thoughts about that?
So is the question basically asking like, are they basically meaning which media outlets are best to submit?
I'm
Because
not sure. I can't see who put that up. Whoever put that up, if you could just put in a comment, let us know specifically what you mean by that, and we'll come back to it if we have time. Here's a question from Ruby, who's a friend and a member of my foundation community. How many times should we follow up without a response?
that's a great question. So again, this one, it really will depend on the journalist. I'm sure some of them, like if they don't reply, no response for some might be an answer. For me, I can speak for myself. My goal is to reply to every email. So if I don't reply, I'm okay with following up because it might mean I didn't see it or I generally might have forgotten about it. I've had people follow up and it's like, oh, what? This is awesome. Like, why did this slip my radar? So for me, I would say at least give me a 24-hour grace period. And if you don't hear from me within the first 24 hours, for me, I'm fine with a follow up.
Girl, you are amazing. You like female Jesus. You.
Because I know what it maybe because it's me. I know how it feels if like I don't get a response. It doesn't feel good. So I try not to like make other people feel that way.
Wow. But to be honest, like if we're startup founders, we have thick skin. So I mean, honestly, if you waited 48 or 72 hours, we'll be just fine. Just so give you a
Yeah.
little bit of time back in your day. Um, so let's see. We have 3 minutes, y'all. Anybody else have any additional questions? I love that Ashley's like Akisi Stokes Nelson, who's another good friend of mine, come through because Ashley's in Bogota. She's like, it's on my list. And she goes, yeah, James, you're crazy. But yeah, we already knew that. And so here's a question from MC Spano, who's another member of my Kabila community. Harry used to be a resource. Are there any sites where journalists post story requests and people can follow up there? Good question.
That's a great question. So I can speak for myself when I've seen. I definitely have seen a lot of journalists like go on Twitter and they'll literally say, "Hey, we're looking for pieces on this," and some of them will like even post like additional information. So definitely scope Twitter. If you have journalists that you admire, follow them too. I mean, I know for me, if you're following me on LinkedIn, I really will post. I think I have a post scheduled for today that I'm looking for an expert, and it's related to a story I'm doing on AI. So if you're following me on LinkedIn, I definitely will give like opportunities, and that could be another opportunity for coverage or to get your name out there because I'll be looking for people who have experienced certain things. So yeah, definitely follow the journalists, follow the publications, but more so the journalists because they're the ones writing the stories. So more than likely,
Yep.
they'll be the ones giving those PSAs out.
Is it Twitter or is it X? I don't even know what it is anymore. Anyway, I digress.
Right. No, you're
Huh?
right. It's X at this
It's
point.
just a mess. X really. Sorry. So here's a question from Akisi. Do you prefer you provide the pitch headline or just give you something juicy to bite? Hmm.
That's another good question. I would say again, it's about increasing your likelihood. So if you can do both, why not do it? Sometimes when I'm writing stories, yeah, we'll come up with the angles, but like it doesn't hurt you to try to come up with the best draw on your own. So if you already have a great headline to like keep in mind, go ahead and do it. If you just have like great information, great insight, that's also fine. But I would encourage you to try to come up with both because it's only going to help you.
Word. That's so good. So before we wrap here, again, I think Samantha is like female Jesus. She told me at the top before we opened up that she does like these weekly one-on-ones and group conversations with founders to help you navigate pitching your startup. Like this woman is amazing. And how can they? You post that on LinkedIn. Like how can they find out about that, Samantha?
Yeah, so I will say like I think the slots did fill up until like mid-August, but I know at the end of August I'll be opening up more dates again. But yeah, on Tuesdays, I think it's like 10 a.m. and 10:30. I have 30-minute windows where I'll just connect with anyone who's in need, anyone who signs up, and I can help you if you have any questions. If you just want to
Amazing.
chat and connect and network, that's cool with me too. It's just an opportunity to just connect and see what people's needs are, and if I can help, yeah.
Amazing. You're amazing. You're amazing. Honestly, just how gracious you are with your time, and how good you are at your job. Do you have a hard stop right now, Samantha?
No.
Oh, okay. So people, in order to get access to that opportunity, should they just follow you on LinkedIn, and you're posting there on LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn would be that's like my like
That's your
go-to.
jam.
That's my
Okay.
jam.
So when they connect with you on LinkedIn, do they just need to send a regular connection request, or should they put like a note? Because I always put a note, and actually I don't accept. I'm a kind of a LinkedIn snob. I don't accept connection requests if people don't put a link, a note. Which is better for you? Do you have a preference?
So I noticed like a no, I feel like I usually always accept it if it's a no. I feel like I'm pretty good about accepting it. It's only if, like, say if you have no profile picture or like I think something's like sketchy, I won't add it. But for
Yeah.
me, a note will only help you, especially if you do want to reach out and connect. I do advise you to leave a note because like I said, my slots did fill up. But I know sometimes people are like, hey, I want to connect with you. I'll just manually like set up time in my calendar. So yeah, a note is good.
Yes. So this is kind of like what we talked about the email. Put her name in the subject. Send her a note. You get 300 characters. Hey, Samantha, really enjoyed your conversation with James this morning. Please connect with me so I could stay in touch with the awesome work you're doing. Boom. Now you got good vibes about that person, right?
Exactly.
It's all about the good vibes. So last question here. There was a question here that's, let's see. I'm curious to get your thoughts about this, and then we'll hop, okay?
Mhm.
What subject matter is hot right now when it comes to pitches?
Definitely like AI, like for sure. Also, this is a great question because this could also mean like, for example, different media outlets have different themes for their quarter, right? So I know for us right now, we were focusing on sustainability, innovation, and Black business. So for us, pitches like that would be very like that would be a hot topic.
How would we know that though, as founders?
That's a great question. So I will say that's not like I feel like editorial calendars are not visible to the public, at least not to my knowledge. However, I know for me, I always encourage people to reach out because I will share information. So
There you go again, Jesus. Sorry.
yeah, so I'll tell people this is what we're looking for, or
Amazing.
this isn't quite a fit right now. We're focusing on these. However, maybe circle back next month. So yeah, for me, you can just reach out and I'll definitely let you know what we're focusing on. So yeah, just stay in contact and I'll
Amazing.
definitely put you guys on.
Thanks for that question, Keith. Keith's all a good buddy of mine in my Kabila community. Samantha, you've been incredible, folks. This is unbelievable. Can you please share this out with your friends on social media? I mean, just getting access to people like Samantha who are so incredibly generous with her time and who just does an amazing job. You can follow her at Sammy Door Media. You can connect with her here on LinkedIn. She said LinkedIn is her jam. She said you could email her. I can't believe you let me put your email address up there. You're amazing. Connect with her via email. You know, you can connect with me on Twitter at Join Kabila. I'm on Threads because I'm not really rocking so much with X anymore or whatever it is. I'm at Trep Dad on Threads. Check out what she's writing about. Oh, one way to figure out what they're hot on is just look and see what they're writing about. Right?
Yep.
The publication overall, as well as the specific journalist. That's one way to do it. All right, everybody, if you could just hang for 2 seconds, I'm going to close this out. I'll play this little closing video. Thank you so much, everybody, for your time. Hopefully, this was helpful. Sade says it's amazing. You're so welcome, Sade. Good to see you again. So I'm going to play this outro video here, and we hang on 1 second for me, Samantha, please. Have a good day, everybody. See you next time. Ciao.